Diving on into our first project, we are going to be making this flower stamped pillow, which I created back in 2018, but it's still such an incredible DIY project. I went ahead and I started off by taking some baby breath flowers and just pressing them between two pieces of paper and added a couple of books on top. And after a few hours, you're going to have these nice pressed flowers, and we're going to essentially be using these as stamps for our DIY. So next what I did was use a little bit of black fabric paint, and I stippled it on with a stippling brush, used a little spray bottle to spritz some water on there to almost turn it into a watercolor. And then I stamped it on the edge of my pillow as shown here using a paper towel on top just to absorb any of that extra water. So as you can see, as you stamp it down, it creates this nice kind of watercolor stamped effect, and I created this all the way around the entire exterior of the pillow, making sure to kind of create a circular shape as I went with it, because in the end I wanted to go back with a paintbrush and some watered down paints to add an initial. This is actually based off of a pillow I saw on Anthropology that had an initial on it, and I thought it was super cute, so I wanted to create my own, and that's how this one turned out. This next project is actually my first ever IKEA hack I uploaded to this channel, and I love it to this date. So I basically ended up using all three of these products here. I used the Frocta straps, I also went ahead and used the Alceda braided floor cushion, and also this little stool as well. And the process of creating this is actually super simple. So I just went ahead, I flipped the floor cushion upside down and flipped the stool upside down as well. As you can see, I got this from the As Is section from IKEA. And all you have to do, since I'm using those Frocta straps here, is go ahead and just mount the stool to the base of the floor cushion. Now the underside of the floor cushion has a nice kind of metal wiring. This allows you to intertwine your strap throughout and just strap it however tight you would like. And I also love how this project is totally reversible too. So let's say in the future you don't want to use this as a side table anymore, you could simply undo the strap and you still have all of your components that you originally started out with, and that finishes off this table. Here we have one of my first ever macrame project I created on this channel, and this is kind of like a faux macrame because you get the look of macrame without actually having to put in all the work needed. So I actually started off with this metal pot here. I believe I got this at Joann Fabric, and some macrame cord also from Joann's. So what I wanted to do is first start off by creating a ring that would kind of go along the top rim of the pot, and we're going to be creating our macrame based off this ring here. So cutting a couple of yards of macrame cording, you're going to need 2 strands per section, fold them in half, and you're going to create a lark's head knot over that ring that you initially created to hold your pot, and you're going to want to apply these at 4 different points on your ring there. So as you can see, we have 4 different sections applied, and now you're going to want to start the macrame process. So grab 2 strands and place them in the center, and you're going to use your right strand, go over the top of your 2 center strands. Your left strand's going to go over the top of your right's tail, underneath and up through the loop. This is going to be a very, very repetitive process, but this is why I kind of call it a faux macrame, because there's no need to really connect different strands and get kind of confused as you're going on with the process. You're only going to be working on each 4 of these sections at a time, and you're going to be creating a sequence of square knots, which is going to end up looking something like this. And once you reach your desired length, go ahead and tie all 4 strands in a knot there and cut 2 of the strands off that are not necessary anymore, so you only have 2 hanging from the end of the knot there. And then once you finish it off, just go ahead and tie all your strands together at the top and hang wherever you desire. I'm a huge fan of taking Polaroid photos, but I never really know how to display them, so I figured we can create this really fun interchangeable Polaroid display. So I went ahead and used this wood sign and a couple of these bags here to create this. So the wood sign is from Michael's Craft Store. I went ahead and painted it white to start, but you could stain this, you could paint it black, however you want to go along with it. And then at the top, I went ahead and screwed in one of these little hooks here, which are traditionally used for picture hanging or hanging plants from your ceiling. And then I went ahead and grabbed my 3x4 inch bags, punched a hole in the top there, and you can slide your Polaroids inside, which really allows you to interchange them and kind of display them as you would like to. You can also add a ton of bags to this. You can have like 10 to 15 bags hanging from the hook that have lots of different Polaroids on them, so you can kind of flip through them and see all of your memories in one location. Next up, we have a fun dollar store project. This is wicker lantern lights, and all I did for this project was get some of these little wicker balls from the dollar store, and I went ahead and I spray painted them first with a brass spray paint. Now you could spray paint this however you'd like to, but I thought the brass would be nice because it kind of would make them look like metallized objects on top of your light strand in the end. So I went ahead and sprayed these with a brass spray paint, and once I was finished with that, I went ahead and grabbed my fairy light strand. Now the best way to put this through these wicker balls is honestly to look for larger holes in the wicker. That way you can kind of string it through like a needle and thread. So I went ahead and I strung through my light strand, and I made sure that a light was positioned right in the center of each wicker ball, and once the light was in position, I went ahead and added a little bit of hot glue onto either side to hold it into place, and that finishes off your little fairy light strand. I have created so many throw blankets over the years, but this was an IKEA hack that I really love. It's so simple and easy to transform any blanket. So I went ahead and started off with a simple knitted blanket from IKEA, and I also got some chunky yarn and a large yarn needle as well. This just makes the process so much easier. So I went ahead and just strung my yarn through the yarn needle, and literally all you have to do for this project is create a nice chunky stitch along the edge just to add a little bit more detail to a basic blanket. So I went around, stitched the edge as shown here, and once you reach the corner, you're just going to want to make sure to also apply a stitch into each corner, kind of pivot it 90 degrees and work in your new direction. Now you can totally customize this and make your stitches as long or as short as you would like to. I feel like I made mine probably about 1 inch to 1.5 inches each, but I really love the kind of ununiform look of the stitches. I feel like it adds a nice handmade quality to the piece, and once you reach the end, you can snip it off and enjoy your throw blanket. Here is a wall art project that is, again, totally customizable and extremely simple. So if you need something quick and easy, this one is for you. I started off with a couple of metal rings. Now you just want 2 varying sizes for this project, and I gave them a nice coat of black spray paint. But again, this is totally customizable, so you can spray it whatever color or metal finish you want to. Now I went ahead and I did a little lark's head knot of the gray yarn at the top there and just tied a little loop. This is going to be the top of our wall hanging where we are going to be hanging it on the nail. And the next step is going to be very simple. Just cutting a couple pieces of your yarn to about 1 yard in length, folding it in half, and just looping it on the larger of the 2 rings. This is a very repetitive process of just looping the yarn onto each of the rings, letting it kind of cascade and waterfall over the top of each other to create a little layered wall hanging. So once you reach the end, I just created a blunt cut with those pieces. I feel like it gives it a little bit of a cleaner look, and on the ring that is smaller, I'm going to be applying this gray yarn to it. So doing the same exact methodology, just cutting it at the bottom to create a nice blunt cut, looping them on, layering it up, and that finishes off this wall hanging. I remember this copper and concrete jewelry stand being a huge hit on my channel, so I'm really excited to kind of be reliving it right now. So you're going to want to go ahead and get a couple of copper pipe pieces along with some concrete and a mold that you're going to be using for your concrete. So I just used some simple concrete mix. You guys all know that I basically suggest the pre-sifted one that comes in the 10-pound bucket. Back then though, when I was creating this project, I did not know about that. So now I do. I highly suggest that one. I went ahead and mixed up some concrete, poured it in the bottom of an oatmeal container, and then went ahead and placed one of my probably about 8-inch tall copper pipes on the inside there. You're going to want to go ahead and let that dry fully overnight so you have a nice base for your jewelry stand. The great thing about concrete is it's pretty heavy, so it's going to weight it down and allow you to apply really whatever you want to the stand. So I'm going to go ahead and just use E6000 to kind of conjoin the copper pipes together, but I went ahead and kind of placed this little T-shaped joint right there, and then I also added some E6000 on the inside to place in one of my copper pipes as well, which is going to be the crossbar. Just let this cure for a couple of hours to the next day, and that finishes off your jewelry stand. Bringing back another dollar store DIY for you guys. This was from a dorm video that I did, and the total cost of this project was $3.50. I used this cutting board on the left side, which I got at the 99-cent store, some nails, some string, and a pencil. So the first thing I did was actually just kind of trace out or sketch out a crescent moon shape, and then I went ahead and just dotted wherever I wanted the nails to be. I also added a couple of nail holes on the bottom, as you can see there, just to go ahead and allow myself to hang a couple pieces of jewelry off this or whatever I wanted to add to it. Now, I used really tiny 1/2-inch nails, which required me to go ahead and use a plier to hold it into place and then a hammer to securely press it into the wood there. And once you go ahead and hammer in all of your nails, I just went back with this black cotton cording, which I just kind of very no rhyme or reason applied it around the entire moon shape just to fill it in. I also went around the edge to give it kind of a nice clean finish. As you can see here, looping it around every single nail. This is just going to kind of finish it off and give the piece an outline. I just like the way that this looks a little bit more than when it is unfinished, and that really finishes off your jewelry hanger. Moving on to our next project, I called this one Floral Globe Decor. Not sure why, because it is more so a fun paperweight or just a cute little shelf decor piece, but I went ahead and I used some resin for this project, a mold, and also some faux florals. So the first thing that I did was I actually sprayed my resin release spray into my mold, and then I pulled off a couple of these yellow roses here. I think I got these at Michael's or Joann's, but you can also get them from the dollar store for sure. So I pulled off a couple of those along with the leaves, and then you're gonna want to mix up your resin. So the resin is super simple. It is equal parts of the resin and equal parts of the hardener. Just make sure to stir each one individually for about 2 minutes each, and then mix them together and stir for about 2 minutes as well. So as you can see here, I'm just mixing it up, making sure it's nice and incorporated, and then you're gonna go ahead and mix them together. So just pour one of the cups into the other one. The resin is now going to start its process of chemical reaction, I guess you could say, and you're going to pour that into your mold there. I then placed in my flowers. You could do flowers, you could do glitter, whatever you have that is small that would kind of fit inside of this resin mold would be perfect for this project. I just opted for the flowers there. I whipped up another batch of resin, poured it over the top to ensure that everything was fully covered, and then you're gonna let this sit for probably about 24 to 48 hours, and that finishes off your little paperweight.